The first time I saw my neighbor, she was standing in her front yard at midnight, holding a garden hose like it was a weapon. I'd been in the suburb for exactly 6 days. My rental house still smelled like the elderly woman who died in it. Lavender and mothballs and something sweet I couldn't name. The boxes weren't unpacked. The fridge contained 3 beers, a jar of pickles, and regret. I was sitting on my porch because the bedroom felt like a coffin. And that's when I saw her. She wasn't gardening. Not really. She was standing perfectly still in the dark, hose coiled at her feet, staring at the street like she expected someone to drive by who never would. I almost didn't say anything. New guy, small suburb outside Indianapolis. Already the neighbors were watching me sideways. Who's the mechanic with the Indiana plates and the out-of-state look? But something about her stillness bothered me. It wasn't peaceful. It was the stillness of someone waiting for a sound that used to fill the house. "You okay?" I called out. She turned. Even in the dark, I could see she'd been crying. Not recently. Her eyes weren't red, but the kind of crying that leaves tracks, that reshapes your face into something older and more tired. "Fine," she said. Automatic, like she'd said it 1,000 times to 1,000 people who didn't really want to know the answer. I didn't push. I'd learned that lesson the hard way back home in my small town, where pushing meant everybody.
I knew your business by breakfast. "I'm Caleb," I said instead. "Just moved in down the street, the blue house with the dead lawn." She almost smiled. Almost. "Lila." "Nice to meet you, Lila. I'll let you get back to your—" I gestured at the hose, the dark yard, the midnight whatever she was doing. "It's broken," she said, suddenly, like the word surprised her. She picked up the hose and water dribbled from a split near the connector. "I came out to water the hydrangeas. Didn't realize it was dark. Didn't realize—" She trailed off. I stood up. "I can fix that. Takes 2 minutes." She looked at me for a long time, weighing something. Trust, maybe? Or the cost of letting a stranger into her orbit. Finally, "Okay." I grabbed my tool bag from inside the door, still hadn't unpacked it, which turned out to be useful, and crossed the street. The air was thick with that Midwest humidity that makes you feel like you're breathing through a wet towel. Crickets screamed in the hedges. Somewhere a dog barked once and stopped. The split was easy. A pocket knife to clean the edges, electrical tape to seal it, a quick tighten of the connector. 2 minutes, like I'd promised. "There," I said, handing it back. "It'll hold for now, but you should replace it before winter." Lila took the hose like it was something precious. "Daniel always did this stuff," she said quietly. "The fixing."
I didn't ask who Daniel was. I could guess. The house behind her was dark except for one light in the living room. No car in the driveway except an older Civic. No men's shoes on the porch. And something about the way she said his name, like swallowing glass, told me everything I needed to know. "I should get back," I said. "Early shift tomorrow." "Caleb?" she said as I turned. I looked back. "Thank you for just fixing it. Not asking questions." "Everyone's got something they don't want to talk about," I said. "I'm not here to dig." That almost smile again. Genuine this time. Then she went inside, and the door closed so softly it barely made a sound. For 2 weeks, we danced around each other. I'd see her in the mornings when I left for Martina's auto repair, me in my grease-stained coveralls, her in the same oversized Purdue sweatshirt, watering plants that were already wilting in the July heat. She'd wave, I'd wave back. That was the rhythm. Sometimes at night, I'd hear music from her house. Old country. The kind my mom listened to when she thought no one was watching her cry. Emmylou Harris, John Prine. Songs about losing things you can't replace. I didn't know her story yet. Not really, but I knew the shape of it. One Saturday, I was rebuilding a carburetor in my driveway. 67 Mustang, cherry red, owned by a retired cop who talked too much and paid on time, when she wandered over with 2 bottles of water. "You always work on Sundays?" she asked, handing me one. "Client's in a hurry, and technically it's Saturday." She sat on the tailgate of my truck, which surprised me. She'd kept distance before. Polite distance. The kind widows keep so they don't have to explain why they're not wearing their ring anymore. She wasn't wearing it now. I noticed. Didn't mention it. "Daniel proposed on a bench," she said out of nowhere, "overlooking a lake. He was so nervous he dropped the ring in the grass and we had to search for it for 20 minutes. I thought he was joking at first. Like, haha, let's pretend I'm proposing. Wouldn't that be funny?" She took a long drink of water. It wasn't a joke. I kept working on the carburetor, not looking at her. Sometimes people need to talk to your hands, not your eyes. He was Marines. 3 tours. Made it through all of them. IEDs, gunfire, a helicopter crash that killed 4 guys in his unit. Came home every time. Her voice cracked on the last word. Then a drunk driver ran a red light. Daniel was coming home with ice cream. Mint chocolate chip. My favorite. The carburetor was clean now. I didn't have a reason to keep wiping it, but I did anyway. "They told me it was instant," she continued. "No suffering. Like that was supposed to make it better. Like I was supposed to say, oh, well, as long as he didn't feel it, I'm fine then." "It's not better," I said. She looked at me sharply. "No," she agreed. "It's not." I set down the carburetor and finally met her eyes. They were that pale blue you see on overcast days. Not bright, not dark, just somewhere in between, holding a lot of weather. "I'm not going to tell you it gets easier," I said, "because I don't know if that's true. But I know you don't have to go through it alone, if you don't want to." She stared at me for a long moment. "How do you know about going through things?" It was my turn to look away. Back home in Indiana, small town, everybody knew everybody, including the fact that my dad walked out when I was 4, including the fact that my first girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend, including the fact that I spent 2 years trying to be someone I wasn't just to make my mom proud. I shrugged. Sometimes you need distance to figure out who you are when nobody's watching. Lila was quiet for so long I thought she'd left. But when I looked up, she was still there, still sitting on the tailgate, still holding her water bottle like a lifeline. "I haven't told anyone about the bench," she said. "The proposal. Everyone assumes we had some big romantic thing. Restaurant, ring in a champagne glass, all that." She shook her head. "It was just us, in the dark, looking for a ring in the grass like idiots." "That's a better story," I said. "Yeah," she agreed softly. "It is." The storm came 3 days later. Late July. The kind of thunderstorm that makes you understand why people used to believe in angry gods. The sky turned that greenish gray that means business. The air got heavy and electric. My phone screamed about potential tornadoes, but around here, that's Tuesday. I was at the kitchen window, watching rain turn my dead lawn into a temporary swamp, when I saw her garage door. It was flapping. Not just rattling, flapping, like a sail that had come untied. The metal track was visibly bent, and the door was hanging at an angle that meant any second now it was going to tear loose and take part of the house with it. I didn't think. I grabbed my jacket, useless against sideways rain, and ran. The wind fought me the whole way. Rain stung my face like gravel. By the time I reached her porch, I was already soaked through, my boots squelching, my hair plastered to my forehead. I pounded on the door. "Lila! Your garage!" The door flew open. She was barefoot, wearing jeans and that same Produce sweatshirt. Daniel's, I realize now. Her hair was damp, her eyes wide. "I know!" she yelled over the wind. "I tried to close it, but the track is—" "Stay inside," I said. "I'll handle it." She started to argue, but I was already gone. The garage was worse up close. The track had bent at a 45-degree angle, probably from years of neglect, and the door was catching the wind like a wing. Every gust threatened to rip it completely off its hinges. Inside, I could see boxes, tools, a lawnmower, all about to be destroyed if I didn't fix this fast. I wrestled with it for what felt like an hour, but was probably 5 minutes. The wind threw me against the wall once, twice. My hands slipped on the wet metal. At some point, I started yelling. Not words, just noise. Just the sound of a man fighting something that didn't want to be fought. Finally, I managed to force the door down enough to jam a 2x4 into the track. It was ugly. It wouldn't last forever, but it would hold through the night. When I made it back to her porch, I was shivering despite the heat. Water ran off me in streams. I probably looked half drowned. Lila was standing in the doorway with a towel. She didn't say anything, just grabbed my arm and pulled me inside. The living room was warm. A fire was going in the fireplace, which seemed insane given it was July. But maybe she needed it. Maybe grief made you cold in ways temperature couldn't fix. "Sit," she commanded, pushing me toward the couch. "You're going to get hypothermia." "I'm fine." "You're purple, Caleb. Sit." I sat. She disappeared down the hall and came back with clothes. A t-shirt, sweatpants, both too big for me. "These were Daniel's," she said, and I could hear how much it cost her to offer them. "They're clean." I took them carefully. I'll be careful with them. In the bathroom, I changed out of my soaked clothes. The shirt smelled like fabric softener and something else. Something old and faint, like cedar or gun oil, or the ghost of a person. I tried not to think about whose chest had last filled it. When I came back out, Lila was on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The fire crackled. The storm raged outside. But inside, it was almost peaceful. I sat in the armchair across from her. Not too close. Give her space. "Why did you do that?" she asked quietly. "Do what?" "Run out there. In the storm. For a garage that isn't yours." I thought about it. "Because I could," I said finally. "Because when you can fix something, when there's a problem and you have the tools and the hands to solve it, not doing anything feels worse than getting soaked." She was quiet for a long time. The rain hammered the windows. Thunder rolled across the sky like distant artillery. "Daniel would have done that," she said. "Run into the storm. He never thought about himself. Not once." Her voice broke on the last word, and she pressed her fist against her mouth like she was trying to hold something inside. I didn't move, didn't reach for her. Some people need touch when they're crying. Some people need space. I'm not good at knowing which is which, so I just sat there and let her decide. She didn't cry. Not really. Her eyes got wet and her breathing got shaky, but she held it together through sheer force of will. When she spoke again, her voice was steadier, Everyone keeps telling me to move on. Like grief has an expiration date. Like I'm supposed to wake up one day and be okay with the fact that the person I planned my whole life with is just gone. There's no timeline, I said. Some things stay with you forever. You just learn how to carry them. She looked at me then. Really looked. Who taught you that? I thought about my dad's empty chair. About my ex-girlfriend's voice saying, "You're not enough. You'll never be enough." About the way my mom used to cry in the bathroom with the fan on so I wouldn't hear. Life, I said. Life taught me.
After that night, something shifted. Not romantically, not yet. It was too soon for that, and we both knew it. But the careful distance between us collapsed. She stopped pretending she was fine. I stopped pretending I was just a neighbor with a tool bag. We fell into a rhythm. Mornings, she'd be in her garden, deadheading flowers that kept dying no matter what she did. I'd be heading to work, and she'd wave, and I'd wave back. And sometimes she'd call out, "Fix anything interesting today?" And I'd tell her about the '92 Toyota that wouldn't start, or the Subaru with the mysterious oil leak. Evenings, if I was working on a car in my driveway, which was often because word was spreading and the side jobs were stacking up, she'd wander over with 2 glasses of something. Lemonade, iced tea, once a beer she'd found in the back of her fridge that was probably 6 months old. We'd talk while I worked. She'd tell me stories about Daniel in small pieces, like she was doling out memories to make them last. He cried at commercials. Any commercial with a dog or a soldier coming home. Every single time. He couldn't cook to save his life. Burned water once. I don't know how you burn water, but he figured it out. The last thing he said to me was, "I'll be right back." Just normal. Just a Tuesday. And then he wasn't. I told her my stories too, about growing up poor but happy, about my mom working double shifts at the hospital and still coming to my baseball games, about the ex who wanted me to be a different person, someone with a degree, a nicer car, a future that didn't involve getting grease under my fingernails. "She sounds like a nightmare," Leela said one evening, handing me a wrench. "She wasn't," I said. "She just wanted things I couldn't give her, and I wanted things she couldn't understand." "Like what?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "Like the quiet. Like coming home and not having to perform. Like being enough, exactly as I am." Leela was quiet. Then, "That doesn't sound like too much to ask." "Neither does a husband who comes home from the grocery store," I said. But here we are. She didn't flinch.
That was the thing about Lila. She didn't flinch from hard truths. She'd earned that right. 3 weeks after the storm, she knocked on my door at midnight. I was awake. I was always awake at midnight. Had been since I moved here, since I left Indiana and all its ghosts behind. I opened the door and found her standing on my porch in bare feet and that same sweatshirt, holding a photograph. It was their wedding photo. Lila in white lace, beaming. Daniel in his dress blues, arm around her shoulders like he'd never let go. "I need you to fix something," she said. "Come in." She stepped inside and handed me the photo. Then she pulled up the sleeve of her sweatshirt. There was a gash on her forearm. Not deep, but ugly. The kind of cut you get when you punch something you shouldn't. "The garage door," she said. "It finally broke. The whole thing came off the track. I tried to fix it myself," and she gestured at her arm. "Sit down," I said. I cleaned the cut while she sat on my couch, staring at nothing. The first aid kit was still in its plastic wrap. I'd bought it when I moved in, figured I'd need it eventually. Looks like eventually was tonight. "You could have called," I said, dabbing antiseptic on the wound. "I would have come over." "I know. So why didn't you?"
She was quiet while I wrapped the bandage around her arm. My hands were steady. They always were when I was fixing something, but my heart wasn't. She was close enough that I could smell her shampoo. Something floral. Something soft. "Because I'm tired," she finally said. "Of being the widow. Of people looking at me like I'm going to break. Of everyone handling me with gloves on." She looked at the photograph on my coffee table. "You don't do that. You just fix things."
"I told you. That's what I do." She reached out and touched my hand. Just a brush of her fingers against mine. An accident, maybe. Or maybe not. I wasn't talking about her arm. I looked at her. Really looked. At the grief she wore like a coat that didn't fit anymore. At the way her shoulders had started to uncurl just slightly over the past few weeks. At the woman underneath the widow. Still there. Still fighting. "I can't fix you, Lila," I said honestly. "That's not how it works." "I know." Her fingers were still on mine. "I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to stay." Outside, the wind picked up. Another storm coming. But inside, it was quiet. I turned my hand over and held hers. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. And for the first time since I'd met her, since I'd seen her standing in the dark with that broken hose, Lila smiled. Not the almost smile she'd given me that first night. Not the
A polite smile she gave neighbors and grocery store cashiers. A real one. And I realized, sitting there in my half-unpacked house with a widow's hand in mine, that I'd been wrong about why I moved here. I thought I was running away from something. Running from my small town, from my failed relationships, from the person I'd been pretending to be. But maybe I was running towards something instead. Maybe we both were.